Okay, hey guys. Today I'm going to show you how to draft a whole variety of different, let's say, basic custom necklines using just two simple measurements and some curves. So first of all, to start, I'm going to simply draft a block in Pattern Lab, in the Lab tab here. Let's go to our block. Also, this tutorial will work with pretty much any block that has a neckline. By that, what I mean is, so a dress block, swimwear, anything at all that has this neckline. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to choose my bodice block. I'm going to go for fit. Let's go close as my preferred. This is probably a little bit looser and easier to work with, but I'm going to go for my close fitting block. I'm going to pick no seam on the front. This is quite important for this tutorial, so don't click seam. No seam. And I'm going to go for my classic dart shaping. You can choose any of these, it's not a problem. They will all work, except for, let's say, these ones here. So stick with the top, let's say 8, or anything that doesn't actually have darts interfering with the neckline. Okay, so next we're going to go to our back, and I'm going to click seam, because I want my seam to be down the back, and let's just go for the double. Next, we don't need a sleeve, so let's just go to download, and it's very important that you click on the e-pattern download. So let's just click the bodice block, because this is the one we're going to be working with. If you intend to use a sleeve with this block, then obviously download these both together. We do have some sleeve tutorials, you can check those out as well. But download these both together because these two go together, they match. Okay. Also, I've just selected a UK 10 for this, I haven't gone for a custom profile. So let's just click download. And let's just put it into my, see, I've already downloaded these pieces, so it's not a problem. I've already got them in there in my basic necklines. I've named it bodice block neckline tutorial and sleeve block neckline tutorial. So I've downloaded them in tandem. Let's just click cancel, and then let's just navigate away from the lab and open up Adobe Illustrator. So as you can see, this is my front block and this is my back block. And also I've got some little illustrations which are actually included in this tutorial. You can download these to play with them and design your blocks as much as you wish. So I'm going to show you how to create a custom neckline using two simple measurements, which is very, very simple. So let's first of all start off with our blocks. Okay. Also, if you're not familiar with Adobe Illustrator, we have some tutorials that show you how to use it, how to navigate. So some basic tools for now, if you haven't seen those, is hold down the spacebar, click and drag. That will move you around the page. Also, Control minus on your keyboard, Control plus plus plus, minus minus minus, zooms you in and out. Okay, so they're really handy when it comes to navigating your patterns. Okay, so I'm going to design, let's say, a custom neckline using the shoulder measurement and the front neck drop. Okay, so first of all, I've, let's say, measured on my mannequin or on myself, and I want a strap width, or let's say a shoulder width of, let's say, 4 centimeters. Okay, let's just type in 4 cm. Perfect. Obviously, you can do this in inches if you prefer. Let's just make that blue. Don't worry about what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just going to set this up. And we're going to have a, let's say, a drop of about 10 centimeters. Perfect. Okay, so I've measured this. This is the kind of dimensions I want for my block. So that what essentially means is we're going to be about, this is roughly 12 centimeters, so we're going to be about 1/3 of that. So this is going to be about 4 centimeters. Let's just move that up a bit so we can see. And then we have our neck drop, which is roughly 10 centimeters, so it's going to be about a little bit longer than that. Let's say about there. Obviously, this is just, I'm doing it by eye. You can measure this in real life, though, so you get accurate measurements. But I'm just kind of winging this on the design concept. And we're going to measure down from our side neck point, okay? Not our neck point, but our side neck point, and from the shoulder tip. So 10 centimeters down and 4 centimeters wide, which will give me something that looks like this. Okay, really simple. And we're not going to put any curving on at the moment because I just want to show you this concept first of all. So our neckline is going to look something a little like this. Let's just reflect that. Copy. So this is our new neckline. So simply taking two measurements, which is the shoulder width from the shoulder point, and obviously the neck drop from the side neck point. And this is what we're trying to draft. No curving, no shaping, no nothing. And we're going to do the same on the back. So obviously the shoulders need to match. Okay, these 2 points from here to here, they need to match on the back panel as well. So let's take our 4 centimeter line and let's just rotate. Once again, this is not necessarily part of the tutorial. I'm just showing the concept of what we're doing when it comes to designing visually. So that's 4 centimeters, and I'm actually going to stick with my back neck drop. Okay, I'm going to use this point here. In fact, no, let's go down, let's say 2 cm from my back neck, just so we do change that line a little bit. So roughly, let's say 2 cm. So this is my new point, and this is my new point. So my back neck is going to look something like this. And because our shoulder doesn't actually include the dart, we're going to remove the dart. Okay? So let's just mirror it on the opposite side. I should probably have done this first of all, but hey, it's nice, I guess, for you to kind of like see the concept of this. So remove our dart, and so this is our back. So we've got a really beautiful, very classic kind of slash neck here. Perfect. So this is what we're trying to create. Lovely. So we're going to do exactly the same concept, but on the actual block itself. Now this is the full-size block which we downloaded, and we've just simply opened up in Illustrator. So with our measurements 4 centimeters and 10 centimeters, I'm going to go in, I'm going to create a point first of all, and this is where the tutorial begins. So with my, I'm just going to simply click on the ellipse tool here. If you can't see an ellipse tool, you'll probably see a rectangle, I imagine. Just simply click and hold, and then while holding, just simply let go on the ellipse tool, and we're going to simply draft a point just by clicking and dragging. Hold down your shift key and it will constrain the proportion. So click and drag, hold down your shift key, and there we have our point. Also, this is filled. Let's just give it a bit of line art. So I'm just going to simply switch between these two. So you've got fill or you've got line art. The reason why is so we can actually see our center point, you see? So we've now created a point. And we simply just want to line this up with our shoulder point. Okay, we're now going to measure 4 centimeters from the shoulder point along our shoulder until we hit 4 centimeters. And the way we do this is simply going to your big selection tool, click on that point we've created, hit the enter key on your keyboard, and type in 4 centimeters on the horizontal axis. On the vertical, we're going to go 0. And as you can see, we've got preview turned on, so it shows you where this point is going to fall. Now don't worry if it's not on this line. We're going to simply move this up in a minute, or rotate it until it hits that line. Just hit copy. Okay, so we now have our existing point, and we now have our new point. Next, because this is 4 centimeters, we want to rotate this up to this line so that it sits, so it's 4 centimeters along this line. If you're doing paper pattern cutting, you just get your ruler and you measure. So let's go to our rotation tool, and let's click on that point because we're rotating this point around this one. Click and drag up, and you see it rotates around, so it's always going to be 4 centimeters. And that is now a 4 centimeter line. You can check by simply going to your line tool, clicking, dragging, and then in the little grey box you'll see 4 centimeters. So that's point to point, you see? Let's just delete that line. So we've created our 4 centimeter line based on our design or our measurements. Next we're going to do our 10 centimeter drop. So I'm simply just going to click on my point with my big selection tool, click on that point, then go edit, copy, edit, paste. So we have a new point. It'll appear somewhere on your page. And let's place it at the side neck point, because this is essentially where we're measuring from. So let's click on that point, big selection tool, click on that point, hit the enter key on your keyboard, 0 horizontally, because we're not going left or right, we're going to go vertically down by 10 centimeters, and then hit copy. So as you can see, we now have our point 10 cm down, which matches our design. However, we want this to be on our center front line. So I'm going to go to my line tool, I'm going to click and drag, and you see how it goes anywhere, or up and down, it's not horizontally aligned. Hold down the shift key and it will lock to that horizontal measurement. And you know that that point is 10 cm on the center front. So the distance from here to here is 10 centimeters, but on the center front. Next, I'm going to simply grab my point, edit, copy, edit, paste. I'm going to pull that point in where those two intersect. So now we have the points for when it comes to drafting this block. Okay, so I'm just going to delete my guidelines now because I don't need them. So small selection tool, delete, delete, hit the backspace on your keyboard a few times, delete, delete, delete. I can explain, but there's a whole bunch of Illustrator tutorials that explain this kind of concept, why we do these things. I'm also going to delete this point because it's redundant, delete. And next, I'm going to show you one of 3 different techniques to actually create this neckline. So the first one is using points. So with my small selection tool, I'm going to click on this block outline. I'm going to go to my pen tool. I'm going to go add anchor point. You can do this by clicking, holding, and then releasing on add anchor point. Otherwise, on your keyboard, you can use minus to remove an anchor point. See? Let's just go back. Or you can go plus to add as many anchor points as you like. So minus on your keyboard to remove, or plus to add. So using the point system, I'm going to go in, I'm going to click on the center of this point that I've created, or this little blue point, this visual point. I'm going to click in the middle, see we've added a point here, and I'm going to click on the middle here, so I've added another point. Next, minus on my keyboard to remove points, I'm going to remove, and there we have it. So that is our new block, or our new front design, which is looking lovely. So, and we know that this is 4 by 10 because that is a 4 centimeter, or 3.99, 4 centimeter line, and this is 10 centimeters down. Okay, so it matches the design spec that we had when it came to designing this block. Okay, so with just 2 simple measurements, we've managed to draft the front of our block. So we now have our back block. Let's pull this over here. So the back block, we want to make sure that the distance between here and here matches the back. If we were to join these patterns now, there would be a whole back panel here that would be flapping around. It would only be this section that's joined. Maybe you want that. It's up to you. But we want to translate this measurement here to the back. To do that, I'm going to go to my big selection tool. I'm going to click my point. I'm going to go edit, not cut, sorry. Let's go back. Edit, copy, and then edit, paste. You can do that by going, click on it, Control C on your keyboard, Control V to paste. Really simple. This works with all computers. Everyone should know this. I'm then going to grab my point with my big selection tool. I'm going to click and drag the center of it until it meets that shoulder point. And once again, you can zoom in and zoom out to make sure you're getting it accurately. Next, I'm going to select that point. I'm going to enter on my keyboard, and I'm going to go minus 4 centimeters. Vertically, 0. Now the reason why I put minus in here is because minus goes left and plus goes right. Same with vertical. Vertical, minus goes up and plus goes down, but we'll come to that, or we'll elaborate on that in more tutorials. I'm simply going to go, you can see the preview, hit copy, because I want that point to remain. And I'm simply going to click this point with my big selection tool, and I'm going to go to the rotation tool, and I'm going to rotate around that point, exactly how we did on the front block, until it meets that line. And that way I know that the distance between those 2 points is 4 centimeters. See there? 4 cm. Perfect. And you can measure that once again. Line tool, click on the center point, click on the other center point, 4 cm. Perfect. Much in the same way you do it in paper pattern cutting, you just simply measure with a ruler. So next, we create our 4 centimeters. Now here, if I remember correctly, we were actually dropping 2 centimeters from this point here. So let's just do that now. So once again, copy, paste my point, big selection tool, click and drag the center of it to my back neck. There we go. And then hit the enter key. I'm going 0 horizontally. I'm going to go down by 2 cm, and I'm going to hit copy. And there we have our 2 centimeter drop. So now we have our nice back line, and it looks pretty straight, but we'll have a look in a minute. So using the point system, and I'll show you the other techniques in a minute, but using the point system, I'm going to small selection tool, select my block. It's important that you select the block first. Click and drag, sorry, click and hold, add anchor point, add an anchor point. Oops, let's zoom in. Add an anchor point. That's a little bit high up. You can always move these points around by using your arrow keys up and down, left and right. Don't go left and right. Up and down till we find that center point, and we can click on the opposite side. See, I've got this line selected while I'm adding that anchor point. Next, I'm going to remove anchor points. So click and hold release, or use the plus or minus key on my keyboard. And I'm simply going to minus, minus, minus. We don't need our dart anymore because essentially it's not there because our shoulder is now too small to enclose a dart. You know what? That really is very, very straight, and it doesn't look like what I wanted on my pattern. So possibly I've not measured correctly. So I'm going to go down another 2 centimeters. So in total it would be 4 centimeters down. So let's just go back. this will give me an opportunity to show you the other two methods as well. So this is our original block. I'm going to delete this point and big selection tool, click on that point, enter key, 0, and then let's go down by 4, copy. That's a bit more like it. That's going to look a little bit more like our design that we have. So you've seen the point technique. The next thing I'm going to show you, which is a little bit more long-winded and complicated, is cutting and then redrawing. So I'm going to select my block with the small selection tool. I'm going to go to my cut. I'm going to cut at this point, and I'm going to cut at this point. As you can see, that's now not selected anymore. These two pieces are completely separate to one another. So I'm just simply going to, let's say, select this top piece, and I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard or backspace a few times. And now I have a completely open block. So now, to then join this block up, I can simply go pen tool. I'm going to click on that point. Okay, it's not going to let me do that. The reason why is because these points are on top. So before we do it, I'm going to select that block with my small selection tool. I'm then going to go to my pen tool, and then now you see it allows me to add. No, it doesn't. Ha! Fine. In this situation, just remove these points. We no longer need them. They're in the way. It's fine. Let's go back to the pen tool, and then let's just click. You see, you'll have anchor, and they'll have like a little. It'll have a little 45-degree line next to it. That means you're actually joining that point. So click, and then you see a little circle. That means you're joining that block, and there you have your back, which actually looks very similar to this if it didn't have curves. There we go. So that's our back and that's our front, and that's pretty much finished, which is perfect. So using just two simple measurements, the shoulder and the front neck drop and the shoulder and the back neck drop, we've created a completely custom and new neckline. Let's just remove these points like that. Perfect. And let's also move this down, because obviously it's conflicting with our pattern. Now, it's going to be hard for me to select this because this is in the way. So there's a very simple technique with your small selection tool. Click or click on the line and then go Object, Lock, Selection. And that means I can no longer select it. That means I can use my small selection tool, drag over this description or information, and then move it to wherever I want it to be. Same with this side. Look, I can't. I'm selecting everything here. It's not working. So select your block, go Object, Lock, Selection. Click and drag with the small selection tool, and then place it where you want to place it. And then we can rename this. Let's call it front panel / neck. Or actually, let's put it elsewhere. Let's go / neck. / neck. Oops. / neck. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it's a little bit off aligned, but that's alright. We can always just pull it into center. You can neaten this up if you want to. It's completely up to you. Let's just zoom out. And there we have our finished block, which is based on our designs. So 4 cm by 10 cm. Brilliant. There's one more thing you can do to change this, to draft a completely new set of necklines, is to add a curve shape to this. So, for example, as you can see on our design, it's a V-neck. It's a very wide V-neck, and this is also a V-neck. If we want to add a bit of shaping, we can do just that. There we go. And then let's do a little bit of shaping here as well. So a completely different neckline, done very, very simply. And we do exactly the same thing on our blocks. So all we do is simply go to, let's select our block using the small selection tool. Select. Let's go to our click and hold, and you have these options here, remember plus, minus. Let's have convert anchor point tool. Let's click on this one, and then let's click and drag. And when you click and drag, you can create all different kinds of shapes and curves, okay? That you can even go up if you want. However, this works in Illustrator, but if you were to create a block like that, it might not work. So you have to be considerate about how you use this tool. So to go with our design, as you can see, it's got a very slight amount of shaping to this curve here. Don't look at this, we'll change it in a minute. This will give us a little bit of shaping, and it's completely up to you how much shaping you give it. This would not work, obviously. However, somewhere in the middle would. You can do this and experiment and see if it works, but, you know, just be considerate. So, once again, I want to try and get this aligned perfectly horizontally, like this, okay? I'll explain why in a minute. And the way you do that is if you hold down the Shift key, it locks it to 45, 90-degree angles. But we want to go along our horizontal, okay? And the reason why Well, first of all, let me show you how you change this, because obviously our center back is now completely destroyed. So once you have click and drag, hold down shift to find the nice curve that you're looking for, simply let go, go back, click and drag that handle in. See, you can create a different neckline if you want, or a different center back, and simply take it back to the initial point, and that will give you your perfect straight back. And this is our shaping. So the reason why we're sticking along the horizontal axis here is because, let me just increase the size of my artboard, don't worry about that too much, and let's just replicate this pattern so we can see them back to back as they normally would be when you actually draft this block. So we can lower the backline as much as we like. However, the problem is that if we use this handle and go further lower, we're going to have problems, because obviously if we do it to the same side, we're going to have this big sticky up sort of like flap that's going to hang off the back of your garment. So the reason why we have to be considerate is because it's going to alter the way that our pattern affects, or the way that pattern is in reality how it's constructed. So anything below horizontal will give you a slight peak. If you keep it on the horizontal, it will always give you a really beautiful center back join. So let's just, what I'm doing here is simply selecting the entirety of my block. I'm then right clicking and going transform, reflect, and then I'm reflecting on the vertical axis and I'm hitting copy to create a new one. Clicking OK would simply just reflect it without having a new piece. Hit copy, and then look, everything's been reflected. You can click and drag until those two panels meet. And as you can see, we've got a really beautiful back curve here because our bezier, or this line, this handle, is not dropping below the horizontal axis. Okay? As I said, you can move this up and down if you like. Obviously, don't let it conflict with your darts, but you can move it up or down. Okay? Right, so let's stick with our original design. Same with the front. Let's create a bit of shaping. Exactly the same concept. You can choose to do it from either side. So let's go to click and hold, convert anchor point tool, click and drag. I'm going to use the horizontal. See, I'm locking with the shift tool. I'm going to lock it to the horizontal to create this really lovely smooth curve. And it can be really tight to give you quite an interesting neckline. And once again, we can, let's say, increase the size of our artboard. You can do that by going File, then go Document Setup, Edit Artboard, and then click and drag, and then big selection tool, click off, and it will lock itself. Then we're going to click, and I'm going to right click, transform, reflect, and then go copy. There we go. And see, that's our neckline. But if we change the shape of it, we change the neckline. You know, you can have it really obtuse. This might not be very nice on the neckline, you might get a little point, but you can, within consideration, I would say do not go past that point. You see? Let's draw a guideline down. It's not a good idea to go past that point. Okay? Anything more than that and you'll have a bit of an issue. But keep it about, you know, let's say 4/5. So with those two simple measurements and a bit of shaping, you can create a whole variety of different necklines. Okay? So let's make that a little bit more like our design. There we go. And you can also get rid of this. This is simply to check. Just delete it, get rid of it, because you're simply going to print these two out and produce these two blocks. So if you want to be really, really perfect, we want to basically match these two blocks at the shoulder to make sure that they actually match and that we've got this measurement from here to here correct. So let's just get rid of my illustration. And as I said, I'm going to give you a pack of these that you can play with. What I'm going to do is simply select this block. So big selection tool, I'm going to click and drag and select this whole block. I'm then going to get this point, so my shoulder point here, let's just zoom in. I'm going to click and drag that until it meets the other shoulder point, which is how these patterns would naturally meet in real life. And then I'm going to go to my rotation tool, I'm going to click and I'm going to rotate the whole pattern around until those two meet. And look at that, that is absolutely perfect. It's beautiful. So this is our new neckline, and we've tested it to make sure that these two are correct. If they're not, if for some strange reason you've got something that looks a bit like this, then you've obviously not done the correct measurement. It's not a problem. You can either, with your small selection tool, click the line first, then click the point and hold, and then you can drag it to where it needs to be. Okay? Or, if they're really very, very slightly out, like by this much, what you can do is simply small selection tool, you can click and drag over that area, just selecting those 2 points, right click and go average, and then both, and that will average those 2 points in space. It's not very as accurate, but it's a very, very quick way of doing it. Okay, so let's just go back. Now we have our blocks finished. Okay, so now we're ready to add seam allowance to this, add it to an A4 PDF template page, and then print it off from our home printer. If you're not sure how to do that, then there are tutorials at the very, very bottom of this tutorial, which will link, at the bottom of this page, there are some links which will take you to those tutorials that will show you how to print your PDF patterns and also add seam allowance to them. But you know what, because it's the first one we're doing on necklines, and you guys might not be familiar with Pattern Lab, I'm going to show you, and it's really good fun. So with my line tool, I'm going to select, let's just go double click on this little area here. I'm going to select a nice blue. I'm going to draw a line, holding down the Shift key to keep it horizontal. I'm then going to select off. I'm going to select that again with my big selection tool, and I'm going to use my Enter key, and I'm going to hit 0, and then in this one, going down vertically, I'm going to put in whatever seam allowance I want. So 1 centimeter, it could be 0.5, it could be 0.25, I mean that would be difficult to sew, but let's call it 1 centimeter. Let's just go copy, and then let's do it again. So I'm going to hold down the Control D, and that basically repeats the last thing that you did. Okay, Control D. So we now have these two lines. I'm going to simply click, I'm going to big selection tool, click and drag over the whole item so it's all selected. I'm going to go to my brushes tool. I love this. And I'm simply, when this pane is up, I'm going to click and drag into my brushes, click Art Brush, OK, and then make sure it's going along the horizontal axis. In other words, we don't want it to be like this. We don't want it vertical, we want it horizontal. So the line is running parallel. Click OK. Also, with the overlap, click corner. Okay, yeah, that's the one we're looking for. Simply click OK, and it'll suddenly appear in your brushes. Next, let's just delete that completely. Let's zoom out. Let's go to my pattern. Let's use the small selection tool. Let's click on this line and then click on our brush, and boom, there you go. You now have seam allowance, but obviously we have seam allowance on the inside as well, and it's a bit messy. So let's go Object, Expand Appearance. This allows us to edit both lines. At the moment, we just have the one. We can't actually pick up the other lines. So let's go Object, Expand. Now we have all of the lines. So the one on the inside, we want to delete, okay? Because this is our existing pattern line. So small selection tool, select on the inside, and then hit delete a few times. Next, we want to do exactly the same with the back, or the front, sorry. So select that block, add the seam allowance, Object, Expand Appearance, click off, small selection tool, click the inner, delete it completely, and next we can change the color of our lines. So let's just select the line you want to change, double click on the line art, which is this one here, and then black, okay. Do the same for the opposite side. Let's go black, okay. And we can do the same for the inners as well. But actually I want to put a dash on this just for the fun of it. So I'm going to select this line. Also, if you hold down Shift and click on the other line, you can select both at the same time. You can also use it to unselect your line as well. Eventually, there we go. So let's just select those two lines, and then let's go to our stroke palette. If you haven't got that, go to Window and then Stroke, and that will bring up this little palette, or this little pop-up, and then just go dashed line, and let's give it, I don't know, 20 and 10 points. And there you have your dashed line. Okay, so we've still got a few more issues that we want to sort out, namely this is overlapping. So really, really simple. I'm going to select that outer line. I'm then going to go to Pathfinder. If you haven't got that, go to Window and then Pathfinder. And then simply Unite. So click this little button here, Unite. And that will simply join the lines and also get rid of anything inside it. Let's just do that again. So you see this little point here and this point are open. Click the Unite and it will close your pattern. Same with the opposite side. Just going to click that. Watch for these lines and the top. I'm just going to hit Unite and it will close that block. So you have now seam allowance on your pattern. Let's also change this to be black, so it's a bit clearer. And we can also make this 1 point. Okay, so this is just the width of your line. can make it really thick if you want to. It's up to you, but let's make it 1 point. It's fine. And that didn't work. Let's do it again. 1 point. Sorry, forgive me. There's something going on here. Let's just go back. Okay, let's try that again. Let's just go 1 point. There we go, perfect. So that's pretty much our blocks finished off with seam allowance, and you can obviously add them to a PDF template and then print them from home. There's one little thing to note here. You're missing a bit of seam allowance. This sometimes happens. Essentially, you want this line to be parallel with the actual block. And you can do this simply by small selection tool, click on that point, and you can drag it, and then drag it beyond just to make sure it is following the existing shoulder line, because obviously if you don't, you're going to be adding seam allowance. That's not going to work. So just click and drag along that line, make sure they match. Do the same with this one. Click and drag along that line until they match. And then with Pathfinder once again, click and then unite. And what that does is it separates those two blocks. And there you have your perfect pattern. So once you've done the Pathfinder, click with your small selection tool on that little bit there, and then just delete a few times. And there you have it. Your block perfectly finished off. Hell, let's just drag this up as well, just to make it really neat. Okay. So that is the end of the tutorial when it comes to creating your own custom necklines using the two measurements, i.e. shoulder tip to whatever measurement you desire, and obviously from side neck point, which is up here somewhere, to neck drop. And obviously you can start to add curves as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and yeah, next we're going to look at adding a facing to this, so you can actually print this off and then start making a finished bodice block. Okay.